Escaping from prison seemed almost impossible. The place was swarming with cops and federal agents, more than an army could handle. But somehow Peter pulled off the unthinkable, using only a few basic tools. First, he took out a marker and carefully drew lines on the floor. These weren't random, they marked the exact spot where the cameras couldn't see him. Then he smashed through a window and dragged over some gas tanks, hiding them in a corner. Next, he grabbed a guard he had just knocked out and lifted him up to the window, on purpose. He made sure the sniper outside saw the body. Once that was done, Peter dragged the guard back inside and swapped outfits with him. After changing clothes, he gave the man a few sharp slaps to wake him up. Then, pretending to struggle, he let the guard lunge at him from behind. The guard thought he had Peter and tried to choke him. That's when Peter moved them both into position, right where the sniper could see. From the outside, it looked like the prisoner was attacking the guard. The sniper didn't hesitate. He fired, killing the guard instantly. Another shot hit the gas tanks, setting off a huge explosion. In the chaos, Peter slipped away and ducked into a hidden corner. While everyone thought the prisoner had been blown to pieces, he was already on a stretcher, disguised as a paramedic patient, quietly leaving the prison right under their noses. Inside the ambulance, he came face to face with a woman, but she didn't raise the alarm, because she wasn't just anyone. She was an FBI agent, and she knew exactly who he was. My name is Sid, and today, we're recapping the 2019 crime thriller movie, The Informer. Please support my work and let's continue the story. His name was Peter. Years earlier, he had been sent undercover by the FBI to infiltrate a powerful criminal gang. Now, his team was ready to strike. Their plan was to catch both sides of a drug deal, buyers and sellers, in one big sweep. To make that happen, the FBI planted Peter deep inside the gang as a trusted foot soldier, but the boss of the operation wasn't easy to fool. He never let new guys near the real deals. So the FBI made a risky move. They staged a fake transport run, loaded it with 6 kilos of synthetic drugs, and made Peter the one in charge of moving it. When he managed to deliver all 6 kilos without getting caught, the gang finally took him seriously. He'd earned their trust. That trust opened a door. For the first time, Peter and a few other men were chosen to carry out a real drug trade. It was a golden opportunity, and Peter wasn't going to waste it. But before anything else, he had to protect his family. He rushed home and brought his wife and daughter to a hidden safe house. He told his wife they'd meet again at 1 p.m. the next day. Just in case, he put the house key on a necklace around her neck. If he didn't show up by then, she was to take their daughter and leave. And if anyone came knocking before that, she was not to open the door, no matter what.
You don't open the door to anyone. 1 p.m., baby, okay? You gotta promise me.
After securing his family, Peter rejoined his team to finish planning the mission. Erica, the FBI team leader, handed him a tiny recorder, which he hid inside his pants so no one could find it during searches. She also gave him a phone, each contact saved under fake family names like Mom or Brother, but really it was his FBI team. Peter double-checked the signal. Everything was working. Then, alongside a few gang members, he headed out to the deal location. Meanwhile, his real teammates followed from a distance, ready to back him up if things went south. Peter's job this time was simple, on paper at least. He and a close ally were supposed to bring 6 kilos of product back to the boss. The moment the boss got his hands on the drugs, the FBI would swoop in, arrest him, and shut down his entire operation. Everything was ready, but then, on the way, things took an unexpected turn. One of Peter's guys claimed he had found a serious buyer, someone who was offering a crazy amount of money. Peter hesitated. This wasn't part of the plan, and the risk was too high. But the guy insisted. The buyer was clean, he said, totally safe, no problems. They walked inside to make the deal. The buyer thought they had maybe a kilo at most. When Peter said it was actually 6 kilos, the man's eyes went wide. He was shocked they had managed to smuggle in that much without getting caught. But he also said he couldn't take it all. He could only buy half now and would pay for the rest later. Peter refused. He said the deal was off. What he didn't say out loud was that he had already figured it out. This buyer wasn't just some rich guy, he was NYPD. Peter had seen this type before. He knew if the drugs ended up in police hands, the whole sting would collapse. He couldn't risk that. So, staying calm, he acted suspicious and started accusing the man of being a cop. The buyer tried to deny it, but Peter wouldn't back down.
You got one chance, and I'm gonna give it to you in a few seconds.
Then, without warning, one of Peter's men stepped forward and shot the undercover cop on the spot. Peter told them they were crossing a line. Killing a New York cop was serious business. But the man ignored him and fired again, putting more bullets in the body, just to be sure. Once it was over, Peter walked out, pretending to be shaken, and waited for his FBI team to pick him up. But his teammates had seen everything through their surveillance feed. They saw the shooting, the body drop, the panic, and then they made a quick decision. They pulled back. No message, no rescue. They just left him behind. Peter stood there, stunned. It hit him hard, but he had no time to feel sorry for himself. He went back inside and helped the others get rid of the cop's body. If he didn't, they'd start asking questions, and that could blow his cover for good. Later, he went to report to the boss. He was nervous. The deal had failed, and now the NYPD would be all over them. But surprisingly, the boss didn't punish him. Instead, he gave Peter a new job, a bigger one. He told him he'd be going back to prison. This time, not as a convict, but as the gang's inside man. His mission was to grow the drug operation behind bars, boost their money flow, and calm the heat from the cop shooting. It was a win-win for the boss. Peter didn't want to go, but then the boss played his trump card. He threatened Peter's wife and daughter. Right now, they were under his control. If Peter didn't do what he was told, they wouldn't be safe.
How much are the lives of your wife and daughter worth to you?
Peter had no choice now. He had to follow orders. When he got home, he called Erica to ask why she left him behind, but her voice was cold. She told him he had gone off script, and losing all 6 kilos of product wasn't a risk they could take. That night, the boss's men got rid of the cop's body. Before dumping it in the river, they did something brutal. They gouged out his eyes and cut off his tongue. They called it a Polish ritual. The next morning, the body was found. The police immediately launched an investigation. One officer, in particular, stood out. A bald black detective. The moment he looked at the body, he guessed it had something to do with the Polish gang. And he wasn't guessing blindly. He had security footage. A video from a nearby cafe showed the victim going in, and shortly after, Peter walking out. That was all it took. The detective locked onto Peter as a prime suspect in the cop's murder. He also noticed a girl. She had once worked as an informant for the dead officer, but when he tried to question her, he came on too strong and scared her off. Luckily, his partner, a female officer, managed to get a few names from the girl before she clammed up again. When they traced those names, they both stopped at Peter. Meanwhile, Peter went to speak with Erica. He hoped the agency would help sort out the chaos, but when he got there, he was treated like a stranger. Since he had been at the scene when the officer was killed, that made him an accomplice. No one could save him now. The only way to protect his identity, Erica said, was to go to prison. That would serve 2 goals: expand the gang's drug market inside and secretly collect a list of inmates and prison guards involved in the trade. That was the FBI's idea of redemption. Peter couldn't believe it. If he refused, he'd be arrested and face 12 years in prison, maybe more. The charges were piling up out of nowhere. All he could do was laugh bitterly. No one believed a word he said anymore. After they left, Peter pulled out a tiny tape recorder. He had captured the whole conversation, proof that could help clear his name one day, if it came to that. The next morning, the boss's men showed up at his house. His nephew delivered a message. The boss wanted to see him, and he also wanted to come over for a farewell dinner before Peter returned to prison. Compared to his FBI handlers, the boss suddenly seemed more caring. Before leaving, the nephew asked Peter where he'd gone the night before. Peter looked uneasy and signaled him quietly. His wife was home. He should be careful what he said. The guy grinned, thinking Peter had gone out partying, and joked about how even straight-laced guys could get wild sometimes. Once they were alone, Peter finally told his wife the truth. He was going to prison. She didn't take it well. No one could say if he'd ever get out. With only 2 days left, Peter just wanted to be with his daughter and prepare her for what was coming. That evening, he bought a bouquet of tulips, stuffed small drug packets inside the flowers, and sealed them up. They would serve as future evidence. The next day, he used a simple excuse, taking his daughter to the movies, to meet with Erica. They talked over the final steps of the plan. Erica promised his wife and daughter would be moved to an FBI safe house during his time behind bars. Before he agreed to go through with it, Peter had 3 conditions. First, he wanted a major drug raid to be launched as soon as he was inside, to wipe out rival suppliers so his own distribution could begin. Second, he asked that the warden place him in the rehab program, which would help with inside access. That night, after returning from the movies, the boss and his wife came over for dinner, a farewell visit. None of them noticed the detective. He had been watching the house for a while. When he saw the boss, he quickly phoned his partner and reported what he saw. The next morning, Peter put the last part of his plan into action. Inside the house, he and his wife began staging a scene. She called the police, claiming she was being abused. Peter smashed dishes loudly to sell the act. To make it more convincing, she even grabbed a shard from a broken bowl and cut her own cheek. While the detective was still chasing leads and trying to piece everything together, the local police were already responding to the domestic violence call. They arrived quickly and arrested Peter on the spot, right in front of the stunned detective. It was the perfect plan. No one suspected a thing. Peter had made it into prison exactly as he intended. Once Peter entered the prison, many of the guards recognized him right away. They figured he was just another repeat offender and didn't think much of it. it. He was tossed into a new cell, where he quickly met two of the boss's men already inside. They clicked almost immediately, and not long after, they handed him a knife, just in case he ever needed to defend himself. At the same time, the bald detective made his way to the FBI office and confronted Erica directly. He laid out his suspicions. He believed Peter was working for them. He had found evidence suggesting Peter's prison file had been tampered with, likely by the FBI, and that he had been quietly released and turned into an asset. On top of that, the detective had photos, pictures of FBI agents near the location where the cop was killed. One even seemed to show Erica herself. Faced with the evidence, neither Erica nor her superior said a word. But since it wasn't enough to fully expose them, the detective left with no solid case. Yet, inside the prison, the head guard made it clear, if Peter wanted to do any business, it had to go through him first. The very next day, a surprise raid was launched. Police stormed the prison with dogs, searching every inch. Most of the contraband was confiscated, including drugs from every group. That could have been bad for Peter, but it wasn't. He had a plan. This sweep meant the field was now clear. He'd be the only one with product to sell. As planned, he was assigned to roof maintenance, a perfect spot for what was coming. That night, Peter's wife placed the drugs inside the belly of a dead bird. Then, with help from the boss's nephew, they flew the bird into the prison courtyard using a remote-controlled drone. The timing was perfect. Rain poured all night, making the roof a mess. The next morning, Peter's crew was sent up to clean the rooftop. He spotted the dead bird, immediately recognized the package, and tucked it into a trash bag like it was nothing. Meanwhile, the bald detective visited Peter's wife. He told her someone had murdered his friend, and he believed Peter was involved. But now things were complicated. The FBI was tangled in all of it. He said he came to help, but Peter's wife didn't trust him. She shared a memory, how 5 years ago they'd been mocked by a group at a store, and Peter didn't let it go. That moment had changed everything. Since then, people kept claiming they wanted to help, but none ever did. She turned the detective away, though he left his number behind just in case. Back in prison, Peter now had the drugs and began selling. But the gang inside didn't like that he was stepping on their turf. Things escalated fast. One day, they dragged him to a common area. The head guard struck him with a baton, knocking him down hard. Then, with help from other inmates, they strung him up, making it look like a suicide. Peter dangled high above the ground, gasping, but still managed to speak. He told them the truth. He was working for the FBI. He wasn't there to ruin their lives. He was there to destroy the boss who controlled them all. If they gave him the list of names involved in the trade, the FBI could take out the entire operation and leave the rest of them in control. The moment they heard that, they cut him down, but they gave him a warning. He had 3 hours. If he was still alive by then, they'd hand him the list. Outside the prison, Erica's superior called her in. He was furious. The NYPD was getting too close, and it wouldn't be long before Peter was arrested, and everything came crashing down. Erica told him Peter just needed a few more days to get the list, and then the operation would be complete. But her superior wasn't interested anymore. He told her to abandon Peter. Erica pushed back, reminding him it was his plan from the start. If she didn't drop it, he said, she could go to jail too. His final order was clear: leave Peter behind. That night, while Peter was in the restroom, a black inmate entered silently and handed him a small slip of paper. On it was the list, every dealer and guard involved in the drug network. The next morning, as the inmates did their daily cleaning, Peter tried to pass the list to a guard and asked to be moved into solitary, but no one responded. Something was wrong. When phone calls opened up, Peter tried reaching Erica to find out what was going on. She answered, but said nothing. In that moment of silence, it hit him. They had betrayed him again. His mind raced. He knew his wife and daughter were in danger. He called home and warned them. He told his wife everything, and she told him about the bald detective, the one still trying to help. Peter told her to give the man the secret tapes and vanish with their child. But before she could leave, Erica showed up. With a gun, she pointed it at Peter's wife and demanded the tapes. With no choice, she handed them over. Afterward, Erica dropped some cash and told her to disappear.
You need to go somewhere the Poles won't find you.
Later, Erica listened to the recordings. Every promise she'd made to Peter, every deal, was right there. And now, with the truth echoing in her ears, guilt hit her hard. She had dragged him into all this, and then abandoned him when it mattered most. Back in prison, Peter knew it was over. But he wasn't done fighting. With fewer people in the cell that day, he quietly grabbed books from his cellmates, stuffed them around his torso as makeshift armor, and wrapped cloth tightly around his fists. Then he flipped his bed and searched for the small knife he'd hidden, but it was gone. While he searched, an inmate crept up behind him, armed with a long, sharpened nail. A brutal fight broke out. They wrestled, slammed into the walls, clawed at each other. But Peter fought like a man with nothing left to lose. In the end, he killed the attacker and dragged the body into the center of the room, right where the security camera had the clearest view. The moment the guard saw what was happening, one slammed the alarm button and called it in to the higher-ups. Inside the prison, chaos was about to erupt. Peter gripped a shard of mirror near the stairwell, hidden in the shadows, watching the movements outside like a predator waiting for the right moment. Bam! Peter lunged and struck him hard, knocking him out cold. He didn't waste a second. With the sharp nail pressed against the guard's temple, he dragged him up to the ventilation room, threatening anyone who dared to follow. Once inside, he cuffed the man and yanked the nail from his neck. Then, something caught Peter's eye, the spinning ventilation fan, and just beyond it, he pulled out a marker and traced lines on the floor, marking the blind spot, the only place invisible to the snipers outside. That would be his stage. Meanwhile, back at his home, the boss had found out about Peter's actions in prison, and now his wife and daughter were targets. His cold-blooded nephew showed up with 2 goons and 2 gasoline cans, ready to set them ablaze. But just in time, the bald inspector burst through the door. He shot one of them down. Just then, a negotiator arrived, offering him a phone. "Call your wife and daughter," he said. Peter's heart pounded. When he heard their voices and knew they were alive, a weight lifted from his chest. Now, he had a promise to keep. He had to return to them. He changed into the guard's uniform and dressed the unconscious guard in his own. Then he woke him up and whispered in his ear. The man, confused and angry, wrapped his arms around Peter's neck, trying to choke him. Exactly what Peter wanted. Outside, the sniper saw what looked like the guard subduing Peter. The bullet pierced the window and hit the gas cylinder, igniting a massive explosion. Fire burst through the attic, and debris rained down. To the outside world, Peter was gone, blown to pieces. But in reality, just before the shot, Peter had dived through the floorboards into the level below. In the chaos, a badly injured man in a guard's uniform was rushed into an ambulance. No one suspected a thing. They thought it was the guard, but it was Peter. Only one person noticed the truth: Erica. Her eyes fell on the faint tattoo on his hand. That wasn't the guard. It was him. Peter had survived. She said nothing, sitting beside him in the ambulance. Guilt crushed her. Then, in a bold move, she handcuffed herself to the medical team, faking a hostage situation. She told everyone Peter had stolen a gun, threatened them, and escaped. Peter was free once again. Back at FBI headquarters, Erica came clean. She confessed to her superior that she had known it was Peter in the ambulance, and she had let him go. Her boss, furious, demanded to know where he was now. Erica hesitated, but eventually, she told him. But the moment the boss prepared to hunt Peter down, the bald inspector burst into the room. He wasn't here for Peter, he was here for the boss. With evidence in hand, evidence Erica had secretly leaked, the inspector arrested the boss on the spot. He would be held for further investigation. And with that, the organization that used Peter like a pawn was finally falling apart. Sometime later, in a quiet park, Peter stood at a distance, hidden in the shade of trees, watching the 2 people he loved most in the world, his wife and daughter. Erica had brought them there just for him. He couldn't hold them, couldn't speak to them. If he made one wrong move, the undercover agents swarming the park would grab him. He could only watch. But then, someone unexpected appeared. The bald inspector. He walked right up to Peter and handed him a package. Inside were new passport documents and a message from Erica. "Go away for a while. Let the dust settle. I'll arrange everything. One day soon, your family will be with you again." Peter looked up. His eyes met his wife's from across the park. She smiled. She knew. He was alive. He was safe. And for now, that was enough. They didn't need words. Their eyes said everything. After all the darkness, betrayal, and violence, finally, a glimmer of peace. Well, that's the end of this story. If you enjoyed this recap, consider subscribing for more movies. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.